Yo, what's up guys? Welcome back. Quick video on the Axial Ryft today. It's been a while since I've had this thing out. It's been a while since I've done any kind of mods to it. And I have these from E-Viratrue Racing. I have these 7075 aluminum rod ends we're going to be installing. I'll give you guys a close look at these, show you what's up with them, and quick install, and then we'll get out and take it for a rip and see how well they hold up. I've had issues with rod ends, the plastic stock rod ends on this truck in the past, especially in cold weather. That is one of the main reasons I would switch to aluminum on these. Is I like to run this truck in the winter time, out in the snow and the ice. It's a ton of fun. I have some videos on that if you want to check it out. Check out my playlist on my Ryft. I have a bunch of videos, and I'll add this to that playlist so you guys can kind of keep track of everything I've done to these. I also have a Ryft set up as a crawler. I did a lot of work to that thing. I love that truck. It works extremely well as a crawler. So maybe at some point, if these work out, I'll throw a set of these on that truck as well. But yeah, let's get this going, and I'll get you in for a closer look here, and we'll see how this goes. Okay, so here we have it. These are sold in two different kits, I believe. You have one for just all of the suspension links, and then you have one for your steering links. So I believe I've seen them listed on eBay separately. You can get either or. This is the full kit, and I'll be installing all of them, except for I am running this Servo AF servo saver on here, and you can see the length of the rod end I had to use on the end here to make this work. So that one I can't replace, so I don't know, maybe I'll just put these two on my other Ryft for now. But we'll be doing all of the rest of them. The other nice thing about switching over to the metal ones, aluminum ones here, is the stock ones, you get these curved links. I don't even know if I have any left on this truck because they all break. That was part of the issue. Yeah, I think I changed them all out for the straight rod ends. And I think some of these are even off of an axial capra. You know, when you just start grabbing stuff to fix this when they break, because I've broken quite a few of these. They either get really stretched out or they just rip apart. But yeah, the curved ones, of course, the issue is all of the force on this, especially when it goes in or out, it's at an angle. So it's not that the plastic just can't really hold up very well, and they break relatively easily. This one does include the angled, I'll take these out in a second, includes the angled rod ends here, which is nice because it keeps the correct kind of geometry and you don't get any kind of binding up in here. And a lot of times when you switch over to straight ones, if it's at such an extreme angle, a lot of times these will kind of pop off to the side of the ball and they don't really ride, and they get a little sloppy and loose in here. So we're going to see how well these correct those issues, and we'll see how they hold up. I can't imagine these breaking. They seem really heavy duty. 7075 aluminum is extremely tough. Let's get these. Let's get these out of the bag here and take a closer look. We'll open up. I have to actually look up. I'm trying to remember which links used the curved rod ends. I don't know if it was just all of the uppers. I don't know. I got to look. It's been a while. They're all, you know, have since been removed from that truck. But yeah, these are really nice quality here. I did install a set of these, the rod ends from E-Viratrue on my SCX6, and they've been holding up great. Comes with a little nut so that you put the nut on the link first, and then you can kind of, you know, tighten it down so it doesn't move at all. And yeah, let's start the install process. Let me look up and see which ones are supposed to get the curved links here, just so I don't put them in the wrong spot. Okay, so looking at an exploded view, it seems like in the front, all the ones on the chassis side are the angled ones. The axle sides are straight. On the rear, what's odd is I kind of thought I remembered the two uppers being curved originally, and then these being straight. But when I look at the exploded view now, maybe they updated it and changed them because it shows these all being straight. But anyway, I have 6 of each, so I'm just going to do these 4 all curved, and then these 2 uppers curved. So all of the center ones are going to be curved, all of the axle sides are going to be straight, and we'll see how that works out. So we get to these fronts. I mean, I'm going to try to be lazy here and not take the wheels off. You can just kind of mush the tire over and get to that screw. And yeah, I'll just work my way around. And if there's any tips to make this easier, I'll let you guys know. But some of them are definitely more difficult to get to, like the uppers on the front here. So just take your time. It's a little bit of a process. First link is out. Let me pop these off, and these are going to be some are standard thread, some are right hand thread, so just pay attention to where the line is on the link here, and the lines on these links are all going to be on the lines on these links are all going to be on the skid side. So in the front they're toward the back, in the back they're toward the front. And where you have this line on here, that is your reverse thread. So righty tighty, lefty loosey does not apply. Righty loosey, lefty tighty on these. And you're going to have matching nuts, so don't just jam these on here. Just make sure you grab the right one and thread that on. And of course, this is going to be the skid side, so this is going to get the angle. And you'll see that some of these are marked left, an L, and that's kind of odd. Okay. Yeah, you'll see that these are all marked L for left-hand thread. And of course, all of these ones, I thought it was odd for a second because all of these are marked the same with an L on it. But these are all facing the skid. So even on the rear here, if you want to keep everything proper, these angled ones go in toward the skid. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And all of these lines will go in toward the skid. So that's what they're going to look like. You know what? I would weigh these. I don't think it's anything substantial. They might be a few grams heavier in total than the stock ones. I don't think it really makes a difference. This other side here is just a standard thread. So that is going to get, and if you keep all the nuts that come in the kit with the angled ones are going to be the correct nuts for those. They will be the left-hand thread, and so just keep them separate so you don't get all mixed up. And I'm just going to run these all the way in, and then just back out on one side. You can, if you really want to keep everything exactly how it was, when you, I should have done this before, but I can do this with the other one. When you take your link off, I highly recommend buying this. I'll link this up down below. This is an RPM. This is a shock tune. I think they call it like a shock equalizer gauge. You can put a shock on either side, press this up and down, and it'll show you the length of your shock stroke, and then also like your spring preload. If you press up on this thing will rotate based on if it goes off to the side too much, you have too much preload on one, as compared to the other. But these work fantastic for making equal length links. It's a little tricky with this curved link because it does angle it down. Let me see if I can get this on here in a way that makes sense. But as you can see, and then when you set this to 0 at the top here, that when you put both links on here, that should be 0. If it's not, you have one that's longer than the other. And it'll also give you a measurement here of your link length. So super handy. And again, I'll do this other one at the same time and pop this on the other side and just make sure that both of these are equal. And this way your axles stay nice and parallel. So I just pulled the other side off here just to get a measurement of how it was. Mostly stock. I mean, this is a different rod end. It actually looks bent. I don't know if that's just on there crooked or if the actual rod, the threaded part is bent, but we'll see. But you can see that pretty much comes out to 0 up there. So this is, and you can adjust this while it's on here and you'll see that change slightly. So we're gonna get these as tight as we can while keeping both of these lined up, and that seems to be about the right setting. And I'll replace these, check it against, I'll tighten these up, check it against this one, make sure they're even, and that's it. And it's the same process for all the rest of them. And this is, you can hold this with an 8mm, and then this is a 7mm. I don't know, I thought I had like a 7mm open end, so the old adjustable crescent wrench will have to do. And these just get snugged up. Just pay attention to, again, the left and right thread on these. You want to tighten these out against the rod end. So, and they don't need to be crazy tight, so you could probably even just kind of hold it here and do it. So just snug them up, and that should be good. Oh yeah, that definitely looks bent. So I'm probably gonna put this back on, throw it in a vise, and try to bend it back. Not perfect, but definitely a lot better. You just gotta be careful if you're bending these back. If it's bent a little too far, you could risk snapping it. The easiest way to do these, if you don't have a like a link duplicator, shock duplicator like this, if you just thread these on by hand, tighten these all the way down by hand, they're gonna end up threading on. Everything is so precisely made. They thread on the exact same way. Then mount this up to the truck. And of course, these might not line up perfectly, right, when both of them are tight, but you want these to be parallel so that you, let me show you on the front here. And I did have to detach the skid from the cage there just to get to everything. But on the front here, you want to have this parallel with that so that you have the same amount of twisting motion here. If not, if one of these is jammed this way, one's jammed that way, these could bind up. So it's easier to mount these to the truck, and then I'll show you in a minute, snug up, you know, make sure these are parallel, and then snug up the nut on there. And it would be the same thing if you're doing plastic rod ends. You know, you don't want to have one twisted so that it's binding up here when this one is straight. You know, you want to make sure that when all is tight, you get the same amount of play side to side here, and that just assures that through the suspension travel, you're not going to get any binding. Okay, so now with both of these installed, of course, you can loosen your turnbuckle here or tighten it. So just make sure the nuts are threaded all the way out, and then tighten it as much as it can, and just make sure that both, as you're tightening it, it's going to twist both rod ends one direction, and then you can snug up the nuts. I did end up finding a 7mm. This is a Traxxas. This came with something. I don't remember what vehicle. I think it's for something with shocks maybe on the Traxxas. I don't even know, but anyway, it works. It's much easier. I'd recommend, if you guys are doing this, pick up a 7mm and an 8mm. It's just gonna make life so much easier. All right, so here we have it, all mounted up. Like I mentioned earlier, all the angled ones are mounted on the skid side, straight ones on the axle side. And yeah, they're all even, same length. Nut is snugged up. We got nice amounts of play on both of these. And yeah, this should be great. I gotta say, the aluminum looks really sweet on here too. Definitely like the look of that. These are, I forget, I think these were D-Hawk Racing arms. They held up pretty nice on here so far. They've been on here for a while. They're pretty beat up. But yeah, guys, let's get this out for a rip and give it a test. I think these are going to work out great. I'm going to put a drip of this on all of these pivots just as more of a corrosion inhibitor. This is SpeedX. I've been doing this for a little while with a lot of other RCs, and it does definitely help. Of course, even with the plastic rod ends, you can get, if you run through water a lot, the pivot ball here can get a little bit rusty and corroded. And of course, when it's trying to pivot on aluminum instead of plastic, it makes a little bit more, it makes it a little more important to use some type of lubricant. So this stuff works out pretty well, just a tiny little drip, and it should keep things nice and protected and rotating smoothly. So you can use like a WD, it's just, you're gonna have to do it more often. I think this stuff lasts a little bit longer, but I'm just gonna go around and hit everything with this and keep it well oiled. Okay, just did the front steering drag link here as well. Like I mentioned, I'm not doing this link because these are different length rod ends just on my truck. If you're running the stock link, the extra ones he gives you will fit on there. And yeah, should be good to go. And on to some running video of the test here. Ended up really giving these links a good test. You can see right there, just smashing into a rock. I sometimes forget, if I don't drive the Ryft for a while, I sometimes forget just how crazy powerful and fast this thing is, and how it just likes to launch. The smallest little obstacle on the trail, a little rock or a root or a tiny little log, it just turns into like a massive launch, right? This thing has such good punch, and I feel like I have the suspension really dialed on this thing. I'm running, I can't even remember. You'd probably have to go back into my playlist for the Ryft and see what I mentioned. I should really do a better job of writing things down. It would be super helpful. Just keep like a little logbook of each RC, what changes I make, because I did end up with a leaky shock on the rear after this run, so I need to redo the fluid. This is my buddy Matt's Axial Ryft. Taking a little bit of a hit there. You can see here, barely any run up, and the thing just launches. Super fun. But yeah, I need to redo my shocks on the rear, and I kind of wish I remembered what fluid was in there, because I feel like the thing is dialed. It launches nice and flat and straight, and it's just really working well. I think I say this in every video, but anytime I take the Ryft out, I'm like, man, this is like one of the most fun RCs I've ever driven. Just going out into the woods like this and running it as almost like a trail truck kind of setup, but then also almost like a basher. Like you can really just start launching this thing over obstacles, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, just driving it up trees like this and doing goofy stuff. And for the most part, it holds up really well. You know, the axles, like here, I sent it up this tree. Was not expecting it to go that high. Didn't even catch it. I mean, it was probably 15 feet in the air at that point. Thank God. Kind of landed just right where it didn't snap an axle. Those are usually the cases where it comes down on one of the rear wheels, like hard. That's usually a case where you end up snapping an axle housing. I do have some steel tubes, axle inserts on this truck to stiffen it up a little bit, but even then, you know, it's a fairly heavy truck, and coming down on the axles puts a lot of strain on it. Excellent test though for these rod ends. Typically, those are the instances where you would snap a rod end. You know, when you come down, same idea, come down hard on one rear wheel, and all of that force just gets transmitted into one of the suspension links, and usually ends up with something broken. And this entire run, I had zero issues, aside from the leaky shock, which is somewhat common with these axial shocks. You can just get a rebuild kit. It's typically, what I find is the little diaphragm in the top cap, or the little O-ring in there, just it expands a little bit over time and just kind of gets out of place and starts to leak. So super easy rebuild on that. I'll have to take care of that before the next run. It's definitely getting toward Ryft season here. This is one of my favorite rigs to take out in the winter. It just does really well in the snow and ice. Almost killed myself there. It just does really well in the snow and ice. I'll also mention that I've been really happy with this Kydex roof panel that I made for this, and you can see I'm putting it to good use. So this is just .080 Kydex sheet that I heat molded. I made a template, shaped it to fit on the roof, and then I heated it up. So you can mold it with a heat gun. So I applied some heat to it, kind of sat it down on top, put a towel on top of it, and kind of molded it to the shape of the roof. And I'll have a video on that soon. I want to do a video on just making a few things out of Kydex. I've recently made some body panels out of it for my bomber and my Super Rock Ray, and I'm realizing I keep mentioning it and I never really show you guys how to work with it. It's a really cool product. In fact, my last video on my Tenska Baja Ray, I made a whole chassis skid out of Kydex, so if you want to check out that video. But I will definitely do a video on how to make some body panels and roof skids here. You can see it really does a great job of protecting that roof. I've had the cage, especially on the top, snap, because if you land really hard on a pointy rock, which as you can see there are rocks everywhere, if you land hard on a rock, it's going to snap that cage, and that whole roof panel, aside from it looking really cool, really protects the cage as well. So this Ryft does have the 2-speed kit, the Axial 2-speed kit, and I'm even running the little Spectrum micro servo that they sell for the kit, and I don't have any problems with it. I would highly recommend, if you're going to do the 2-speed on this, watch Exo Caged video. He does on how to modify and install the 2-speed kit. There's a couple things you need to do, like grind down the shift fork, and you leave the little locator pin out. And then I'm running this on a FlySky controller GT5, and I have a 3-position switch. And what I found is that if you set a 3-position switch and you have a neutral in between the high and low, it just seems to shift better because it gives you that little pause in between. And I have zero shifting issues with this truck. I don't shift it under power. I just, when I'm stopped, shift from high to low, low to high, whatever, and it works perfect ever since I've installed it. It makes a huge difference. A lot of this stuff I'm doing here, I'm doing in low gear. And for just trailing around like this, or even doing some basic level crawling, low, it works extremely well because it reduces the gear ratio, the final drive ratio, by 50%, and that's huge because this truck is extremely fast in high gear, which is what it comes in standard. So standard, the Ryft only comes with high gear, and the 2-speed kit, you're just adding a low gear, which drops it down 50%. But I highly recommend doing that, especially if you're driving in these conditions. It just makes it so much more of a usable truck. On 4S, this thing is really crazy fast, so you don't need high gear all the time. And it does cog a decent amount in high gear, so low really helps that a lot. And yeah, I've been extremely happy with this, so highly recommend it. Again, check out Exo Caged. He has a YouTube channel. He did a really great video on how to set that up, and I followed those steps. Worked out great. Another tip for the Ryft is to get a good sway bar on the back. This is a trail sway bar. Fits perfect, works perfect. Everything about it is just right for this. I think the tension on the sway bar is just right for this truck. Keeps it nice and flat, makes it handle so much better. That's definitely a must-do on the Ryft. And aside from that, these are stock wheels and tires. It's the stock ESC, stock motor. I did drop the pinion down. I don't remember exactly what it was. I think it was like the smallest pinion I could fit, and the thing still rips, so no complaints about that. Other than that, yeah, it's really just like suspension tuning and just kind of dialing it in. And I've been really happy with this truck. It just works extremely well. If you're wondering what that skid plate is on the front axle, we probably saw earlier, that was made by T-Bone Racing. They're since out of business for, I don't know, probably half a year at least, if not more. But I might do a video on how to make one out of Kydex. That would be really cool because I feel like it definitely saved me a lot of headaches with things breaking, because you can see driving this thing aggressively through rocks, you smash the axle into a lot of things, and I think that really does a good job protecting it. So I think I'm going to try to make a version, and I'll show you guys how to do that. That would be a cool video for my Kydex series. So that's pretty much it, guys. So there we have it, guys. These things took a beating. They held up great. No issues whatsoever. Really happy with these. Check out E-Viratrue.com. I'll have a link down below. Check out their eBay store as well, and you'll find all sorts of cool parts and accessories. That'll do it for this, guys. Stay tuned. I'll have some more Ryft videos coming up in the very near future. Going to get some more mods for this thing. And yeah, check out my playlists. I have one for the Ryft. And yeah, thanks for watching. Consider subscribing if you want to see more. And any questions, hit me up in the comments. I'll get back to you guys. And catch you in the next video. Later.